Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Wealth Conversation podcast with me, Tsitsi Mutiti. I guide high-achieving women on their journey to build lasting wealth so they can prepare for an abundant future in every area of their life. I hope that today's episode will help you to transform your relationship with money so you can make the choices that will enable you to create the opportunities and lasting wealth that you desire. Let's get straight into this week's episode. Welcome to the final episode of the Wealth Cornerstone Series. In episode 1, I revisited what physical and mental well-being means to some of my previous guests. Episode 2 is focused on spiritual well-being. In episode 3, I shined a light on social well-being, and in episode 4, I focused on financial well-being. Now, not all of my guests have broken down their definition of wealth into the 5 wealth cornerstones. Actually, some of them have a general definition of wealth, which they feel encompasses these 5 elements. So in this episode, I share some of those definitions with you. However, if this is your first time listening to the Wealth Conversation podcast, you may be asking yourself, what are these wealth cornerstones? Well, I believe that we all have the desire to create wealth on our own terms, and that this can be achieved once you are clear on what wealth truly means to you in the following 5 areas of your life: physical, mental, spiritual, social, and financial. Listen to parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the Wealth Cornerstone series to learn how my previous guests define physical, mental, spiritual, social, and financial well-being. So let's remind ourselves now of what true wealth means to some of my guests. First up is Vangile Makwako. She is the founder of Wealthy Money, a company that helps people heal ancestral money trauma so they can fall in love with their bank accounts, live their best lives, and create generational wealth. She is the teacher of Wealthy Money Academy and the host of the Property Magicians podcast and the Money Magic podcast. Vangile says that true wealth means the following to her.
I think in everything for me, wealth means choice. It means the choice to be able to make decisions. Often, even in our health, money is a huge part of the discussion. We can't say that we don't care about money, but having money means that I can choose the kind of doctor I want to go to, the kind of hospital I want to go to, the kind of care that I receive, right? In relationships, having money, often women stay in relationships because while we share the rent, we're sharing the expenses, at least he looks after the kids financially. Having money means that I can walk away from a relationship. I don't have to put up with anything because I can look after myself financially. And then in terms of just emotional well-being, having money means that I've got the choice, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, anxious, scared, to go get emotional support. I don't have to try and do it myself. I can get therapists, right? I can hire the experts. Financially, having money means that I get to choose how I make money. Often we think it's about having money, but actually it's more than that when it comes to making more money. One of the things that I realized, and I realized this when my uncle passed at the end of 2017, my mom was really not able to deal with the situation. Her high blood pressure was too high. Everybody else had to leave and go back to work. I was the only one that had the choice to stay. I put my apartment up in Thailand for rent, and it was leased out. For 2 months, I could be in South Africa, and I didn't have to do anything. All I did was do live videos, do basics around my business, and have my team support me. My job was to look after my mom, to cook for her, to give her massages, to take her to the spa, to make sure she was okay. And I could do that because I had the resources, but I also had the choice as to how to make the money. And for 60 full days, my mom was my only job.
Gretchen Betts is a chartered and certified financial planner at Magenta, an award-winning specialist financial planning company that believes in delivering planning with passion every day. Since launch in 2016, the business has become known for its bright and bold brand and for proudly flying the flag for women in the profession. For Gretchen, true wealth means...
I think that true wealth means having flexibility, the choice, and feeling empowered about decisions that you can make in your life. I think, good well-being for me generally means, I'm able to get up, enjoy the life I have and the day that I've got. And maybe I've made good choices that means I've slept well and I've not worried about things. I probably have a cat purring on me at some point in the day because that helps amazingly with my mental well-being. And that on a good well-being day, all of those things would mean I've had a choice of some of the things that I've chosen to do, and I feel connected to my body, my home, my business, and other people in my life. So it does come down to good wealth for me means I've got choices that I can make. Now, you don't always make the best choices for your well-being, but you try every day to make good choices for your well-being. And I think that they're all, as I say, interlinked for me.
With over 25 years of proven business leadership and relationship success and over 50 years of life success, Denise Taylor's combined experiences position her to help women develop success strategies for every area of their life. When asked, Denise will quickly affirm she lives a blessed life. But don't get it twisted. Her life has not been perfect or easy. Denise told me that wealth means the following to her.
When I think about what wealth means to me, I will tell you that it has matured over time. At one point in time, it was about what materially I had, what I could represent. It was what was at my disposal. And I think a lot of that, again, came from the upbringing, and it came from trying to justify and prove myself, right? But I will tell you, if I think about wealth today, I believe that God is trying to get resources in the earth realm to build his kingdom. And so when I say build his kingdom, I don't necessarily mean building edifices. I don't necessarily mean that. I mean making deposits in people's lives in the most meaningful way. I believe that whatever resources we have been given, be it our time, our talent, or our treasure, that we have a responsibility to invest it so that others can grow. Now, I will tell you, for a long period of time, it was really about success to me. But over the last couple of years, my thinking has shifted to how can I live significantly? And when I say significantly, it really is about what impact can I make in the lives of other people. And so I believe that when I consider the wealth of my time, talent, and treasure, I am looking for how I can make the impact in other people with those resources. And that makes me feel wealthy. And so that's the crux of my wealth perspective. Now, for each of those areas that you've identified, I think one, we need to make sure that we have an intentional strategy regimen for how we're building ourselves up in those areas so that they can then overflow to be significant to others. So how am I building myself up physically? How am I building myself up professionally? How am I building myself up personally? And as you've laid them all out, they're all very key to what am I doing? How is it growing? And how am I giving from it?
You can listen to the full interview with Denise Taylor in episode 30, entitled Embracing Your Power. Next up is Domonique Sender. Known as the Rags to Impact coach, Coach Dumi went from a life of menial labor with little prospects to Oxford graduate and globally renowned diversity and inclusion expert and coach. He draws his personal experience with social mobility to help organizations achieve meaningful workplace diversity and inclusion. He also supports individuals to overcome limitations and maximize their personal and professional growth. In episode 12, focusing on Black History Month, Coach Dumi told me that wealth means the following to him.
I find myself hearing the word in my head, growth, and I think linked to that progress. And so in some sense, I don't think wealth is necessarily a figure or a state that you arrive at and that's it, right? I think it's the wealth is unlocked through the journey of building it. You said a minute ago, trusting the process, and it's in that building of the reserves, it's that building of the capital, that building of the of the profits, of the proceeds, all that coming together, even in our health, in our family, in our social sector, social realm. So I think it's a process of putting in and then sharing what comes out. That's how I would define wealth. Putting in and then sharing what comes out. Because what comes out, if it's just for me, then it's not wealth. It's probably just riches. It could be riches in terms of even my physical, if it's about my physique and how I look, then it's not wealth really. Wealth enriches more than the person who creates it, And so for me, it's about what we put in and then sharing what comes out so that we are all enriched.
The final contribution for this episode comes from Joyce Orsay. Joyce is on a mission to inspire, impact, and innovate with entrepreneurs and senior leaders in tech and beyond through diversity and inclusion. For over 8 years, Joyce worked to increase the representation of women in male-dominated industries by supporting leaders to attract, retain, and develop their female talent. Joyce is very passionate about increasing the representation of people from marginalized backgrounds through video content because it's vital that people have a safe space to share their lived experiences. Her definition of wealth is?
I would say, wealth means choice for me. It means choice and it means empowerment. Because then you can choose to do the things you love doing, and you will feel empowered. There will be no limitations on you when you have wealth in all those areas of your life. So that's what wealth means to me.
You can hear more about Joyce and her work in episode 18 of the Wealth Conversation podcast. I hope that you have enjoyed listening to the Wealth Cornerstone series, and I would love to know what your definition of each Wealth Cornerstone is. So be sure to leave a comment on Instagram or Facebook at The Wealth Conversation. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Connect with me at The Wealth Conversation on Facebook and Instagram so we can continue the discussion. Also, if you enjoy tuning into this podcast, make sure to leave a rating and review everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Until next week, stay focused on becoming the designer of your financial future.